Ms. Dandridge, the Biden-Harris administration, through the American Rescue Plan and the bipartisan infrastructure law, has dedicated billions of dollars to lead pipe faucet fixture and line replacement. Can you talk about how clean water access is related to the climate crisis? And how can we continue to address both the short and long-term needs of clean water access and the climate crisis?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to begin the first half of that question, lead service line replacement is an issue that's nationwide. And as you know, the cost is really inflated. The reality, though, is that the climate crisis is related to it because the way we treat lead in this country is by changing the pH levels. Every state is different because of each water systems and where they're pulling it from. But if that pH is changed in any way, that's when you start to have a lead poisoning event. And so in the case of New Orleans specifically, we drink our water directly from the surface water of the Mississippi River. And most of New Orleans, being that it's a city that's over 300 years old, is full of lead lines that have not, and being that it's a small city, we've never had the funding to do mass lead line replacement. With the saltwater intrusion crisis, right, Gulf of Mexico water coming up, that would immediately change the pH levels of the lead lines. And so if any salt water were to get into any of those water systems, doesn't matter if you change your personal pipes, it doesn't matter if the city or any municipality change their pipes, if it's coming up and there's any lead detected in that system, you're going to have a lead poisoning event. Now, I will say that my organization has been doing lead testing for the last few weeks in New Orleans to better understand people's risk since that crisis. And we can say that a vast majority of people homes have tested positive for lead. And some of those are at critical levels. And so you can imagine if that is just with regular treated pH level water, you can imagine what a saltwater crisis could do. Now, how does that relate to climate change is we're running out of fresh water. Because of drought, most states are feeling it right now. Even Louisiana, which is a water-rich state, is going through drought. Or in other cases, the water is being used by multinational corporations. Even Baton Rouge was running out of fresh water from their aquifer due to 3M creating paper, right? So we have two issues where you have corporations utilizing water for multiple uses, whether that be oil and gas. LNG plants need water to cool their plants, as well as, just making products. All of that puts us at risk where we're having drought, and any change in that system means that people will be exposed to lead. And as a reminder for those who may not know, there is no positive to having exposure to lead. There is no healthy source or healthy amount of lead. Any exposure can damage the system from the liver to the kidneys to the brain. And if you're under 5 years old, have any medical conditions, cancer, that can be detrimental and really change the trajectory of your life for the foreseeable future. So if the entire country, to answer your question directly, has lead, and his systems are under threat from drought, from overuse, and that pH level changes, you will have lead poisoning. That could be on a small scale or a very large scale.
So we heard about it in Flint.
Yeah.
Are you in crisis right now again? And are you getting how do we help you? What are the resources that don't repeat the last crisis that you had? And there's certain cities that are more in crisis right now than others. But now that you focus us on New Orleans, it scares me again.
Yeah, it's terrifying because we don't control the levees of the Mississippi River. If it doesn't rain down upriver, then we can't control that. So for the foreseeable future, Louisiana, southeast Louisiana is at risk of a lead poisoning event. And I'm not just speaking about New Orleans, all surrounding parishes are at risk. And I should say Plaquemines Parish, which is at the mouth of the Mississippi River, is still without fresh, clean drinking water. There are tribes, there are communities, fishermen, fisher folk who are currently without clean drinking water from their systems. So the threat is real. How do we alleviate that threat? Is obviously lead line replacement, which is a massive part of the IJ bill, but we know that more is needed. We've talked about that extensively. But in the short term, reverse osmosis systems have to be put in, which is very expensive. the lead line program does not include reverse osmosis. And for example, Orleans Parish and other parishes that were at risk of that had to seek out loans to pay for that, even though they are not the creators of this problem. So those are just two things, obviously the funding to remove that. And then I would also add that the utilities are not prepared for lead service line replacement right now at this moment. I'm not just speaking on Louisiana. We're hearing that across the country. We're hearing that in parts of Buffalo. We're hearing that in parts of Florida, that they're just not ready. They need to, one, they have to map their lead lines. That's an extensive, expensive process. The only reason why New Orleans has their lead lines mapped is because they qualified for a Google.org grant. If that didn't happen, they wouldn't be able to pay for it. Secondly, they need to have the manpower. You need contractors who are qualified to remove lead lines. And then you also have to have financing power to actually put out those grants and actually be able to facilitate the funding for that. Finally, it's a massive oversight of actually repaving roads on the public side. So you need workers on both the private side and the public side to initiate these programs. Even today, most cities who are still trying to get those state revolving funds are finding that the funding is not achievable because they can't even meet the basic criteria. And even when they do meet that basic criteria, they're seeing the replacement program lasting up to 20 years instead of the 10 that we're hoping for.